All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. Let's go ahead and settle into a comfortable posture for meditation. And if you're walking, just, just walk in a way that is helpful to you and supportive of being present. Simply take a moment to see what's here, to kind of rest into the body and come home to presence. And whatever's here doesn't need to be any particular way. Just whatever is here is whatever is here. And that can be okay. To begin, you might lightly let attention rest on the breath. Just very gently. There's no need to force anything. Just letting attention notice the breath arise and pass away. Letting the mind settle into the body. As the body stills and attention rests on the breath, noticing any turmoil in the mind start to slow down, to lose its steam. That thinking goes away. It just starts to lose its urgency. When the mind rests in presence, any physical or mental agitation has the tendency to slow down. The attitude can be one of simply receiving the experience of this body and this mind. Nothing about that needs to be changed. Whatever is received can simply be allowed. If the mind feels somewhat stable, you may let go of the intention for attention to rest on the breath. Simply rest in a more open, panoramic awareness. If the mind is agitated, often getting lost in thought, then you may maintain the intention for attention to rest on the breath as a way to anchor the mind in presence. As you rest in stillness, you might notice that stillness has a quality of kindness to it. Kindness towards all these phenomena arising and passing away in experience. These sounds, these feelings of the body, the visual phenomena, thoughts or emotions. You might notice that there is a warm, welcoming acceptance to these things. Something else you might notice about experience is that everything is effortlessly allowed, just as you need to make no effort for a sound to arise, or a visual sensation to arise, or a feeling in the body to arise. Thoughts, too, require no effort to be allowed, to be recognized. The mind is simply aware. Sometimes it may appear that there's resistance to a thought or a feeling, but that apparent resistance is being effortlessly allowed by awareness. It arises with no effort from you. Everything is simply arising and passing away in awareness on its own. It's resting in stillness, effortlessly allowing phenomena to come and go. Nothing needs to be done, and nothing is being done. Anything that appears to be being done is simply a phenomena arising and passing away on its own. There's always a quality of perfect stillness to the mind, even in the midst of turmoil. Notice any appearance of struggle in the mind, resistance to the present moment. Notice that struggle or resistance is arising within awareness. If the mind were not aware, it would not be present. Any struggle or resistance is simply another phenomenon arising and passing away in awareness. And simply let go. When the mind notices resistance or struggle or tension or effort as simply phenomena being effortlessly received by the stillness of awareness, it simply lets go. Why struggle? And everything simply effortlessly happening all on its own. the mind feel stable, and simply let go of all effort and let the mind do the mind. There's nothing you need to do. It will take care of itself. You are okay in this moment. The body is okay. The mind is okay. There's nothing you need to do. Simply let go and taste freedom. in this last minute or two, you might take that time to thank yourself for your practice, for doing this thing that leads to the end of suffering, yours and others. It's a very skillful thing to practice. It's a great gift to yourself and the world. So I don't know if you guys caught it last week, but there was a landing on the moon. It was a company called Intuitive Machines. So it was a private company, the first private company that's done that. And it was the first time that the United States has been back to the moon in 50 years. So it's very exciting. I watched the live stream. It was a bit of a nail biter at the end. They lost communication with the lander as it was going down, and it took like a while to kind of reestablish that. So nobody really knew what was going on. And so that reminded me of another experience that I had in the past. That's the basis for this Dhamma talk. Another space program experience. This was the like I really enjoy the space program. I find a lot of joy and excitement from it in general. This was the Perseverance lander in 2021, I think. So Mars. And I remember watching that broadcast too, and I remember there being a lot of interviews with the engineers, and it was very clear that they had like poured their heart into this thing. You know, they'd spent like many years on this this lander, and it was a pretty like tricky thing technically, at least as far as I understand it. And so they were showing the actual landing, the EDL phase, the entry, descent, and landing phase. And there were a lot of things that had to go just right at just the right time. You know, the cruise stage had to separate, and the heat shield had to deploy properly, and the parachute had to deploy properly, and then had to cut off at the right time, and the back shell had to cut off, and so while they were showing this process, they were cutting back to like mission control. So you see what's going on, but you also see all the engineers in the room who had spent their lives, or like a large portion of their lives, on this like very delicate thing. You see them watching this play out, and it gets to the very last thing. So everything has gone right so far, and it gets to the very last piece. I forget what the term is, but there's a kind of shell that holds the lander, and they can't just like set right down on the ground. And the shell can only kind of get down so low, so maybe like 100 meters off the ground or whatever. And they can't just drop the lander, so they have to like winch the lander down, right? And this is a novel descent mechanism, so they had never tried this before. And when an engineer hears the word novel, they hear scary, right? It's very difficult to get something right the first time, but they were trying this. And so it comes to this very last piece. This last piece is new. And my recollection of how this played out is that there was also some kind of something that interfered with figuring out what was going on. So it started the descent, and there was a point where nobody knew what was going on. And my memory of that is that there was a shot of mission control, and the room is just dead silent, just dead silent. And then, it stays that way for a while, and then the guy who's responsible for the telemetry, he says, like, we have signal or something like that. And the room just explodes. It just explodes. These people are like yelling and screaming and jumping up and down and slapping each other on the back and hugs and everything. It's just great deal of exuberance. And my experience of this as somebody watching, somebody completely unconnected to this, my experience was one of great happiness. I'm sure there was like some happiness for humanity in general, but for the most part, it was just happiness for these people who had spent like all this time and effort doing this like worthwhile thing that was going to benefit everyone and succeeded. I was very happy for them. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. That feeling of happiness for another's good fortune. That's mudita. I think you've all probably heard that word. It's often translated as sympathetic joy, but that's what it is. It's happiness in the face of another's good fortune. You can think about mudita as so I've talked about metta before. Metta is this this open and non-specific warmth and kindness and wish for others to be well. Mudita is metta in the face of someone else's good fortune. So that's what that is. So there's two components to mudita. There's the metta and the awareness of another's good fortune. If you don't have those two things, you get other things that may be similar in some way. If you just have metta, and maybe you have awareness of someone's bad fortune, you get compassion, which is very skillful, but it's something different. And if you don't have metta, if you perhaps have ill will and you have awareness of another's good fortune, you get something like jealousy or envy. You have this nice thing, I want it. And if you have awareness with awareness of another's good fortune with, maybe neither metta or ill will, you might like pick up on some of the excitement of that other person, but you're not going to be grounded in their experience. You're going to kind of appropriate it for yourself. So it's just going to be this excitement that may have some grasping to it. So that's not particularly skillful. But mudita is both. Mudita is metta and awareness of another's good fortune. So I want to do a little exercise, and maybe I can demonstrate something about mudita that's helpful to know. So if you want to just get in a meditative posture, this will be just a few minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell a story about an experience of mine. What I'd like you to do is to pay attention to your experience. So maybe check in with how you're feeling now. Maybe kind of keep a little eye on it as I speak. In particular, maybe kind of check and feel what you feel at the end after I finish my story. So this is a true story. This is the last time I was sitting a long retreat. I was sitting at a place, was in a very wooded area. It was very much a part of nature. And I would usually take my meals in this kind of courtyard area that's open to, it had some open space and some trees and some bushes and stuff. And a family of rabbits lived there. So I would sit there and they would generally be out there and I would be eating and doing metta for them. And one day, the mother rabbit was kind of sitting, doing her thing and eating. Just watching her doing metta. And out hops this little baby rabbit. And he is pretty adorable. And I don't know if you've seen baby rabbits, but they move like baby horses, colts. They are they're not certain of their movement, and they're a little awkward and stumbly. And so this little rabbit is kind of awkwardly stumbling over to mom. And there's a particular behavior that rabbits have that I wasn't aware of at the time. My friend who has rabbits explained this to me later, but it was quite obvious what was happening. So this little baby rabbit gets to mom, and it just hops as high as it can, with all of its might. It just hops straight up, and it sits there, and it hops away a few steps, and it looks back at her. And mom doesn't do anything. She's just kind of eating. So he hops back up to her again. And it's this great hop, hop, 2 in a row. And he kind of scoots away a little bit and looks back at her. And it's clear in my mind that he's excited about something. He's wanting her to follow him. And he comes back and tries again. Hop, hop, hop. And he starts to hop away, and mom comes hopping after him. It's just the loveliest thing. My heart just kind of broke open for this dear little creature. And as much happiness and joy as a person could feel, I was feeling in that moment. Okay, so maybe check in with your experience and kind of come back to the room. So you might have experienced some amount of joy or happiness, either for that little rabbit or for me. If you didn't, that's fine. Perhaps you can follow along with another memory you have of being happy for another. But the thing to note here that I was hoping kind of a direct experience of this would illustrate, the thing to note is that any joy you felt in that, like from hearing that story, was not from a cause that's specific to this body and this mind, your body and your mind. Something for that little rabbit or for me. But because you were open to it, you experienced your version of another being's good fortune, and you felt that, and you felt that happiness and joy from that, and you got that benefit. That happiness or joy you felt was an experience just the same way as happiness or joy would be if it was caused by something from your body or mind. It doesn't matter where that initial good fortune starts. Joy is joy, and happiness, regardless of where it starts. So I think the most important thing that I'll say today is that the amount of joy that's caused by things that are specific to your body and mind is finite. I wish you all very happy lives with lots of good things, but it's just the truth of reality that sometimes you will not have good fortune. Sometimes you will have bad fortune. And this is the first noble truth. There is dukkha. And so if you limit the amount of joy that you feel to the stuff that's specific to you, you'll have this finite amount of joy in your life. But if you open your heart to the good fortune of other beings, then the amount of joy that you can have in your life is functionally infinite. I'm sure you've all heard the phrase, "There's no such thing as a free lunch." That's not true. There is a free lunch. This is a free lunch. It costs you nothing to wish well on another and feel their joy. And it takes nothing from them. It adds to their experience. It's really the most important thing I have to say, I think. I'll keep speaking. So we can find mudita everywhere. There's kind of triggers for that all over the place. I'll share a recent experience of mine. I did something last weekend that I've never done before. I did one of those dinner cruises on the river where they put you on a fancy boat and they drive the boat in circles and they take you back to the dock and they feed you a meal while they're doing that. And it was a very, very interesting experience for me. So there was one aspect of that was quite difficult. It was very, very stimulating. There were a lot of people and there was a dance floor and I was right on the floor, like right next to the dance floor. And so there was this like blinky dance floor lights and this loud, loud music. So it was like, it was very overstimulating. It was quite difficult for me. But on the other hand, I was feeling all of this joy just because like there was so much happiness around. Like we got there early, and so we got to watch all the couples take the like little souvenir photos where they have the uh, kind of life preserver with the name of the boat, and they take your photo and charge you $40 for it. And um, you know, most of the people there were couples, and they were celebrating things like birthdays or anniversaries, and it was very happy. And it was right next to the dance floor, and everybody's just really, really enjoying themselves. And there was a couple that proposed even, and that was just a lovely, lovely thing. And I was just like picking up all this happiness from everybody. It was just this very lovely experience. It felt at one point like I was kind of radiating happiness myself, just because I was picking up so much of this. It doesn't have to be like kind of special experiences like that. We can find reasons for mudita all over the place. I went to the gym this morning and I find a lot of mudita in the gym, just like people using their bodies in ways that are helpful and they're healthy and they promote a long and healthy and fulfilling life. One thing I like to see, I lift weights, and one thing people who lift weights like to do is track what they call PRs, so personal records. So this is like the most amount of whatever particular lift you can do, and it's very enjoyable to me to watch somebody try and succeed at that. It's a very happy thing when somebody hits a new number. Mudita can be found in just like any aspect of being human. You can feel happy for your coworkers when they do well at work. You can feel happy for your friends when they succeed at what they're doing, or just living in these bodies and these minds and interacting with the world and connecting with other people and learning about things. It's just like endless sources for mudita. Find mudita in animals. I hope for all of your sakes that you have found the YouTube channels with the cute cats and stuff and cute animals doing cute things. There's so much mudita there. I send those sometimes to people. Pets are a great source of mudita. My friend has a dog. He's a Papillon. And he's just very, very, very like, he's very on. And every memory of going over there, I was just like chatting with her. And so I was talking with her for a few hours, and I was sitting on her living room floor, and the entire time I was just like playing fetch with this dog, who was just delighted to play fetch with me, and just like completely delighted every single time. And I just got so much joy out of that. Animals in general mostly live in the moment. Like they don't have these big self-constructs that we do, and they don't worry about their boss being angry at them and stuff. And they can just kind of live in the moment. That's a very, very kind of joy-inducing thing too. That freedom, like seeing that in another being. But I wanted to highlight one particular place that you can find mudita, and that's in finding mudita in folks practicing the Dhamma. I get a great deal out of that. I'm thinking in the moment of a practice group that I have. I have a couple of practice groups in my life, and we meet every Monday. So we met yesterday, and the group is just a lovely group of people. But what I particularly like is that we all sit together, and then we all have time to share about our practice. So every Monday, I get to spend this time hearing about people I care about and how they're making their lives better, making the world better. That's really joyful. Yeah, I get Metta out of you guys too, Mudita out of you guys too. And I came across a parable recently that kind of supports this point. I'll share it with you guys. This is from the Lotus Sutra, so a Mahayana text. And I think that's one of the big texts in Mahayana. And it's got several parables in it, but this is the parable of the burning house. I'll read part of it and paraphrase the rest. So this is the Buddha talking to Shariputra. And he says, Shariputra, suppose in a village or city in a certain kingdom, there was a great elder. He has many fields, houses, and servants. His house was large and spacious, but only has one gateway. Many people lived in the house, 100, 200, 500 in all. Its halls and rooms were old and decaying, its walls crumbling, its pillars rotting at its base, its beams and rafters falling down and dangerous. All over the house, at the same moment, fire suddenly broke out, engulfing the house in flames. The children of the elder, 10, 20, or 30 even, were in this house. The elder, seeing this great fire spring up on every side, was very alarmed and thought, though I can get out safely through the flaming gateway, my children are in the burning house enjoying themselves, engrossed in play, without awareness, knowledge, alarm, or fear. Fire is closing in on them. Pain and suffering threaten, but they do not care or become frightened and have no thought of trying to escape. So these guys' children and all these other people are in this burning house, and he first tries to explain to them, the house is on fire, you should probably get out. But they're not really hearing him. So he tells them their favorite toys are outside, and that gets them to kind of run outside. So he saves the burning children, and at the end he says, or the parable says, then the elder, seeing that his children had safely escaped and were all sitting in the open square and no longer in danger, was very relieved and ecstatic with joy. So the parable is the burning house is the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. And the children are us unenlightened folks who are in the house, liable to be consumed by these fires. And the elder is the Buddha, kind of showing us the way out of the house. And the last line I read mentioned that he's ecstatic with joy that his children are saved. And that is the kind of joy that you can find in someone else practicing. We are all kind of escaping this fire. And when you see someone having success in that, it's a very, very joyful thing. It's something I think about a lot. So folks are having good fortune all over the place. And if we simply let that go by unremarked, we're stuck with whatever good fortune we can generate for ourselves. But if we open to the other, if we open to others' experience, if we let that barrier between self and other drop, then the amount of joy that we can have is unlimited. It's free. It's there for the taking. I wish us all that.